The Internet of Things can be seen as a distributed system of heterogeneous connected objects and services, all of them connected to the Internet. Some analysts estimate that by 2020 there will be more than 15,000 million connected devices in the world. The potential of the Internet of Things to disrupt and revolutionize the way we understand how cities work or the way we manage our energy systems, for example, is huge. At the same time, there are important challenges that we need to overcome in order to be able to realize the vision of the Internet of Things. There are technical challenges, of course, related to the collection and the understanding of all this data and the building of all these systems. There is also a challenge related to standards, because these are heterogeneous devices. We could have cars and appliances, home appliances, and pollution sensors and traffic sensors, and they're all different. But if we need them to talk to each other and to understand each other, we need to define appropriate standards. There are also important privacy concerns, because many of these sensors are going to be deployed in an environment. They are going to be monitoring the behavior of people, so it's very important to ensure that the privacy of individuals is preserved. Related to this, there is also a lot of security challenges, and in fact there have been recent news on some security breaches on connected devices. So I think we need to always pay a lot of attention to the security of all these devices, particularly when we have millions of them connected to the Internet. And finally, there are additional societal challenges when we will eventually live in a society where many of the decisions that in many cases affect us are made automatically by algorithms that are analyzing the data from these devices. In addition, it might become a huge burden and a huge challenge from a human-computer interaction perspective if we have to be monitoring and understanding what is going on with all these different sensors in our environment. This webinar will address many of these challenges, and it will be able to inspire many researchers and professionals in industry to embrace this big opportunity of the Internet of Things.
How many devices do you have connected to the Internet? Most of us have our computers, our laptops, smartphones and tablets. Also, some of us may have a smart TV or even a game console. And there are a few of us that may have smart devices in our homes also. Smart thermostat, smart lighting, and other smart devices. It is well known the high number of regular devices connected to the Internet. By the year 2020, it is estimated there will be about 50 billion devices connected to the Internet. Yes, 50 billions. The stuff of science fictions 30, 20, even 10 years ago are becoming the things are reality today. We merely have to look at the cartoons from our past. The Jetsons, for example, are the first things that comes to most people's minds. Is the video phone. We have now Skype, FaceTime, video phones, and many other forms of video conferencing. The Jetsons also invented the televiewer. You were in a way to sit down in front of a monitor and read the news. It also has moving pictures. Sound a little familiar? We have taken it off the wall and placed in your hands with the tablet that does moving pictures embedded video. And of course, this was the television watch. And now we have the smartwatches. I think smartwatches and smart cars and reminds me another television show from the 80s. Knight Rider. Of course, Kid the Car was the ultimate smart car. I look forward to the day when I am out of dinner and I am ready to leave. I can speak into my smartwatch saying, "Come, get me." My car, wherever it is, it will drive to the front of the restaurant and will pick me up. I guess we are still far from that, but evidence is already emerging. There are currently self-driving cars. Eventually, self-driving cars will have the front seats facing backwards, so that the front and back seat passengers can all be facing each other while the car drives itself. And when most cars are self-driving, there won't be any accidents between self-driving cars because they will be all in constant communication with each other. We are in the early stages in the creation of an Internet of Things. Indeed, the current landscape of the IoT is really large. As it was said in the foreword, the Internet of Things can be seen as a distributed system of different connected objects and services, all of them connected to the Internet. The IoT is expected to make high impact in industry, and also in government, health, education, smart cities, finance, and environment. Next, we will show examples of nowadays that provide just an evidence into what is possible when we combine sensors, actuators, and network intelligence. In addition, we will see how on the consumer side there are nearly endless combinations of applications. Four key areas are examined to explore some of the most pressing challenges and questions related to the IoT. These include standards, security, privacy, and some social issues. A fragmented environment of proprietary IoT technical implementations will inhibit value for users and industry. While full interoperability across products and services is not always feasible or necessary, purchasers may be hesitant to buy IoT products and services if there is integration inflexibility, high ownership complexity, and concern over vendor lock-in. In addition, poorly designed and configured IoT devices may have negative consequences for the networking resources they connect to and the broader Internet. Appropriate standards, reference models, and best practices also will help limit the production of devices that may add disrupted waste to the Internet. The use of generic, open, and widely available standards as technical building blocks for IT devices and services, for example the Internet of Protocol, will support better usage benefits, innovation, and economic opportunity. But the reality is that we are seeing the beginnings of a trend that often impacts standards development. Certain standards groups are beginning to collaborate so that a more general standard will emerge. Naturally, the IEEE is getting into the action. In the IoT field, there is a working group to define architecture standards for IoT. The aggressive goal is to build a reference architecture that covers the ability to be integrated into multi-tier systems.
Thomas wakes up refreshed after a good night's sleep wearing his sleep apnea breathing therapy equipment, which is implemented IEEE Standard 11073-10424. His sleep quality monitor also captures his sleep patterns, stages, and quality of sleep, and uses IEEE Standard 11073-10423. Contemplating the data from the scale, Thomas is trying to maintain a healthy weight based upon the advice from his doctor, who will be happy with his progress. The weigh scale implements IEEE Standard 11073-10415. Thomas is type 2 diabetic, and it is very important for him to closely monitor his blood sugar levels in order to maintain his health. Before he begins eating, he needs to check his blood levels with the glucose meter, which indicates normal results. The glucose meter implements IEEE Standard 11073-10417. Thomas is ready for his morning run, but first he needs to check his blood pressure. He sees the readings are well within his doctor's prescribed limits, which indicates that his health routine has been paying off. Thomas heads out the door ready for his 5-mile run, implementing IEEE Standard 11073-10441. His fitness monitor will help him track his activity levels. Having finished his morning regimen, Thomas is able to capture his biometric data readings on his mobile device via IEEE 802 wireless communication technologies. He then sends his data to his doctor using his mobile device via IEEE 802 wireless communications. Thomas's doctor is able to view the results of his patient's morning regimen on his mobile device and monitor biometric data trends so that he can better manage Thomas's medication and therapeutic needs. The doctor is able to see all the data from the various devices Thomas utilizes as a result of the device interoperability afforded by the IEEE 11073 standards.
While security considerations are not new in the context of information technology, the attributes of many IoT implementations present new and unique security challenges. Users need to trust that IoT devices are secure for vulnerabilities, especially as this technology becomes more pervasive and integrated into our daily lives. Poorly secured IoT devices can serve as potential entry points for cyber attack and expose user data to robbery by leaving data streams inadequately protected. When coupled with the highly interconnected nature of IoT devices, every poorly secured device that is connected online potentially affects the security and resilience of the Internet globally, not just locally. For example, an unprotected smart TV in the corner of a continent that is infected with malware may send thousands of harmful spam emails to recipients worldwide using their own home Wi-Fi. Perhaps we could unplug our internet-connected TVs if they get compromised in a cyber attack, but we can't so easily turn off a smart utility power meter, or a traffic control system, or a person-implanted pacemaker if they fall victim to malicious behavior. This is why security of IoT devices is a major challenge. Additionally, IoT devices tend to differ from traditional computers and computing devices in important ways, and they have unique security challenges. Let's see some evidence. Many IoT devices, such as sensors and consumer items, are designed to be deployed at a massive scale that is orders of magnitude beyond that of traditional internet-connected devices. Therefore, existing tools, methods, and strategies associated with IT security may need new consideration. Let us focus in this issue. Some IoT devices, like many environmental sensors, are designed to be unobtrusively embedded in the environment, where a user not does actively notice the device nor monitor its operating status. As well, devices may have no clear way to alert the user when a security problem arises, making it difficult for a user to know that a security breach of an IoT device has occurred. A security breach may persist for a long time before being noticed, and correcting or mitigation is even possible or practical. Once we have introduced the potential risks, a number of questions have been raised regarding security. Although many of these questions existed prior to the growth of IoT, it is essential to pay attention to this challenge, because the risks increase in importance due to the huge scale of deployment of IoT devices. As said before, it's important to remember that when those devices are on the Internet, they are also part of the Internet, which means that effective and appropriate security solutions can be achieved only if the participants involved with these devices apply a collaborative security approach. Continued work is needed to evolve collaborative approaches among industry, governments, and public authorities to help secure the Internet and cyberspace, including the Internet of Things. Although all the great benefits of IoT, there are serious concerns about privacy. After all, smart devices will be collecting unprecedented amounts of data, and anything connected to the Internet is capable of being hacked. The primary privacy concerns surround the following questions. Who owns the data? The collector of the data or the subject to the data? Companies or consumers? What is done with the data? May the data be used only for the specific purpose for which it was originally collected, or may be used by third parties for marketing or other purposes? Who may access the data, and for what purposes? Certainly, your doctor should access the data for that sensor you always wear, but what about your employer? Who has control over the collection and use of the data? Sometimes an individual may not even aware data is being collected. How are the subjects at the data collection informed of the collection? How do they give consent or exclusion? The usual privacy notices found in terms of use that we all do not read are not so applicable in many situations that your sensors, since we are not even aware that the information is being collected. And many connected devices lack a user interface where we could grant consent. Of course, the Internet of Things also potentially creates a far-reaching infrastructure surveillance. As more and more data about our daily activities are being collected, it is possible to create an accurate profile of a person. How can privacy be safeguarded under these circumstances? With some of the possible approaches to safeguarding privacy interests with connected devices include the following. Anonymizing data wherever possible are required assurance for recipients of the data that will not attempt re-identification. Encrypting the data. Building privacy protections into the design of the devices from the outset. Limiting use of the data to the purpose for which it was collected. And express an informed consent. And being transparent about the fact of collection and the purposes for collection. Another protection should be to allow users to access and delete data collected by devices. And finally, providing for appropriate oversight to help ensure compliance with accepted best practices. Internet of Things offers an immense ability to track individual movements that, while potentially useful, can reduce autonomy and create a constant sense of observation. The industry should monitor the impact that information overload will have on Internet consumers of things. People do not want to hear things that will make them feel guilty, because of the fundamental self-esteem problems faced by all human beings, and that anything that breaks the illusion will result in people being exhausted with the smart devices, and simply will be disconnected. So, what do you think? Will the Internet of Things improve our lives, or will lead to a desolate future?
Well, look at the wonders of the computer age now.
That can't be true, honey. If it were, I'd be terrified.
Hi, I am Pascal Holalka, working in the company Synthesis in the position of Head Innovation and Development. I only have 2 minutes to share with you my view about the security challenges in the IoT world. The first point is to understand the world of standardization. More than 150 organizations are working in the IoT normalization. The key word is interoperability. As soon as the standard will be known and published, because of this horizontal layer concerning the communication, all the players from one market will be able to come in another ones to take share. 3 important paradigms will change in a near future. The user will choose the functionalities and not the developers anymore. Think about the apps you download on your smartphone. If after the first try you dislike the app, it is done, you won't use it anymore. All the redundant functions will disappear. It means a merge of applications and cockpit to keep a big picture. And indirectly a consequence of a previous one, all proprietary systems will die. This need of usability and interoperability will destroy all the monopoles and proprietary systems. I predict 2 big changes in the security market with the standardization. The first one will be the move from static contract to on-demand ones, like you have on the TV. The customer doesn't want to pay for services he doesn't need. For example, I only need a connection to a private alarm receiving center during my holidays and not pay a bill each month for 3 weeks usage. The second one will be the transfer from external monitoring to self-monitoring. People are used to manage themselves, their data, profiles, and some studies show that 55% of people expect to use their smartphone as the main administration tool for their home equipment. The security market will change into a new smart security market, a fusion of a smart home and home security. Because of the normalization, the security of the data will play a big role as already identified by the Gartner Group. If you have any question, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your attention.
The current Internet of Things, like a unified standard communication protocol, which is particularly evident in the industrial field, because these companies adopt data collection devices and application management platforms in industrial private standard, which is not in an open way. So IoT standardization is the issue, deeply rooted in the development of industrial internet that need to be solved, which involves changes in business processes, devices, and many other issues need to be addressed one by one. From the industrial point of view, the development of industrial internet means that industrial control systems will be more complex, the IT and universal.
There won't be enough business until we have enough infrastructure. So let's take the example of smart cities, for example. Now smart cities are being performed by integrators. IBM can have one city and full of sensors and perform smart parking, smart waste solutions, and control the monitor, environmental, and everything. But if we think about the new ecosystem and about the new industry we are creating, we would need a whole country with the same sensors to start enable new businesses, like, for example, trading with the data and even trading with the connectivity options for those sensor data, enabling services like apps for your smartphone that connect to the sensor network in the city and tells you if the noise levels are too high in this area or not, or where can you find a parking spot in the city. And the more infrastructure, the more players will be coming in. The more scale the market will be demanding, and the cheaper will be the chips, the connectivity chips, and also, again, the bigger the infrastructure. So I think it's taking traction, and one thing here will be making the traction to make it faster, the adoption.
First question, what is needed for the Internet of Things to move faster from industry to consumers?
Most people believe that what's holding up the adoption of the Internet of Things, especially the industrial Internet of Things, that is, the Internet of Things in the industrial world, that includes manufacturing, healthcare, transportation, logistics, and so forth. Most people believe what's holding that up is security, privacy, interoperability, and that's absolutely true. So we're going to need standards to solve those problems. But to get standards that solve those problems, we're going to have to solve that general problem of data analytics with semantic integration. This is a primary focus area for the object management group. But to get to that point, we have to understand better what are the requirements for those standards. To figure out the requirements for those standards, the Industrial Internet Consortium has test beds specifically to figure out what are the best practices, not just technical best practices, such as what do the standards look like, and how do we find products, and how do we implement products with existing implementations and so forth. But also, how do we hire people? How do we train people? How do we reskill people? What are the impacts on my current infrastructure? What are the impacts on my business methodology? And most importantly, what are the impacts on my business strategy? So that's where the Industrial Internet is focused. Internet Consortium is focused. So that's where the Industrial Internet Consortium is focused. It's also important that we solve the problems of security in software. You've seen for many years, for example, the CMMI as a way to measure the quality of software, not by looking at the software itself, but by looking at the process used to develop software. That's important, obviously, and we can improve processes, and we've been talking about that for many, many years. But it's now possible to check on the quality of software and the ability of software to be protected from security threats by looking at the software itself. And that's what the Consortium for IT Software Quality is focused on, or CISQ or CISC. And it's also important to realize that implementing all of this in the cloud means dealing with security in the cloud, and dealing with interoperability in the cloud, and dealing with the capability of moving existing implementations to private, public, and hybrid cloud implementations. And this is a focus for the Cloud Council. So altogether, these four consortia, all managed by the Object Management Group, are looking at the problems of semantic integration, of security, of privacy, and how do we deal with calculating exactly what the requirements are, what are the changes to our industry, what are the changes to our infrastructure, and how do we create standards that enable and accelerate the adoption of the industrial Internet of Things.
Next question. How is IoT changing the industrial internet? And what are the challenges for standardization?
So it's clear that we're already seeing the impact of Internet of Things on industries such as manufacturing, transportation, logistics, healthcare, and so forth. There are some big surprises in there, for example, precision agriculture. These are industries that have existed forever and have been unimpacted by the internet. That's really a big surprise. On first glance, people think the internet has changed everything. It hasn't. There's something like half the world's GDP which has been unaffected by the internet. But the falling cost of internet technologies, of connectivity, of compute power, of storage, all at once, and the high throughputs that are available and low latencies that are available in networks, means that we can now apply this technology much more broadly across many, many different vertical markets. This is what the Industrial Internet Consortium is focused on. How do we take this technology, which is broadly called the Internet of Things today, and apply it to industries such as transportation and manufacturing and healthcare and precision agriculture and fishing and all sorts of other industries.
What are the challenges in security?
It's clear that one of the biggest challenges in the Internet of Things is security. Already in 2016, we've seen major DDoS attacks, for example, the Mirai attack, which was blamed on the Internet of Things, although, frankly, most of the things that participated in that attack were, in fact, just routers. You're not going to have much of a network without routers. But yes, it's true, some of them were cameras and refrigerators and other things that have complete operating systems in them and can be used as attack vectors. We're going to have to deal with that, and there are several different ways that we're dealing with that. The Industrial Internet Consortium has a very well-regarded Industrial Internet Security Framework, or IISF, which was shipped in September of 2016. This is a way to think about, categorize, and manage the risks that come from security problems in the Internet of Things. At the same time, the Object Management Group is focusing on how do we capture threats, what we call threat analysis, so that we can share between all of the organizations that have to deal with these threats that come from the internet, variously called cyber threats and threat vectors and so forth. That need to manage the many different threats that you see on the internet became entirely clear as we built out some of the test beds in the Industrial Internet Consortium's testbed program.
The concept of combining computers, sensors, and networks to monitor and control devices has been around for decades. In this webinar, we have made a trip through past, present, and future of the Internet of Things with applications in industry. We have shown that IoT represents a growing aspect of how industry can interact with the Internet and network connectivity into personal, social, and the economic lives of the people. Also, we have seen evidence about how the recent confluence of key technologies and industry trends, it's helping in an encouraging future for the Internet of Things. We have covered a number of potential challenges for emerging industry that may stand in the way of these visions, concretely in the areas of standards, security, privacy, and social issues. Solutions to maximizing the benefits of IoT while minimizing the risk will not be found by engaging in a polarized debate that pits the promises of IoT against these possible perils. Rather, it will take informed engagement, dialogue, and collaboration across a range of stakeholders to plot the most effective ways forward. Finally, this webinar has been the first of others that will be transmitted during the next months. Concretely, we will focus on three emerging areas of the Internet of Things: smart cities, healthcare, and education, respectively. We will be more than happy to promote interaction between attendants and speakers, or even with panelists with well-recognized background on those areas of the Internet of Things. Hope to see you soon online during the transmission. To get further details or even make any questions, please do not hesitate to reach to us through the following contact details.